Hey guys, Hamsterwheel Gaming here with a new video, and today I'm going to talk about getting some gear for your brand new level 60 character. Now this video is going to be a caster edition, since making one of these videos for every single armor type or class would be extremely time consuming. And apart from Clothies, I don't really know that much in terms of what gear to get for classes that wear leather, mail or plate. So before I begin, I want to tell you guys a few things up front. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Ruben98 for making the suggestion that I should do this whole gearing up your Clothie thing for WoW Vanilla as well, since it was a great idea and I had a lot of fun putting this list together. Another thing I want to tell you guys is that the list I'm about to show you is nowhere near the best in slot gear that some people will require you to have to join certain raids. This list, just like the Burning Crusade one, is just made to get your hands on some pretty easily obtainable items that will allow you to do some decent damage in PvE and perhaps even in PvP. Okay, so the last thing I want to say is that it was much harder for me to find some decent and easily obtainable gear, since items with spell damage and such are a lot more scarce compared to the Burning Crusade, which means I had to resort to other ways of getting gear, such as craftable items and items that you can buy in the auction house. I will, however, stay clear from any dungeon gear, since that's all based on luck in terms of the item actually dropping and then you actually winning the roll. All in all, it's more time consuming and more expensive to get this gear compared to the video I did for the Burning Crusade, but then again, that's the nature of vanilla. Good stuff is just more scarce and more time consuming to get. Alright, I think I got everything out of the way, and without further ado, let's start off with the headpiece. For the headpiece, I've chosen the Dreamweave circlets. Now I know that this is a level 45 item, but even at level 60 it's still quite good because of the 21 extra spell damage it offers. This item is crafted by tailors and you will need 8 bolts of mage weave, 4 wild vine, 2 heart of the wild, 3 heavy silken threads, 1 true silver bar and 1 jade. Now tailors usually ask for a tip, but this is such a commonly crafted item that 9 out of 10 tailors will craft it for free if you ask them nicely. Okay, moving on to the necklace. Now, I'm sorry that for the necklace there was almost no choice whatsoever, so I only managed to use this one for my list, which is the Choker of the High Shaman. It only has a bit of intellect and spirit, but there really wasn't anything else worth mentioning for casters that was easy to obtain, so this will do. Also, I'd like to bring up something that I urge you to do while leveling up your character, or while getting this gear, and that is voting. Basically, you can vote 4 times a day on the Feenix website, which will give you 4 vote points per day, and when you have enough you can actually buy some really nice blue items. Now, I'm not going to mention an alternative for every single item slot, but since this necklace is so poor, I advise you to keep on voting and eventually get this, Diana's Pearl necklace. Not only is it really nice in terms of stats, it's also pre-raid best in slot, meaning that this is the best possible item you can get before raiding gear, which is really nice. In the meantime though, you can still go for the Choker of the High Shaman, so you at least have a necklace with some decent stats. The quest chain you will need to do to get this item starts with the quest Mokthardin's Enchantment. Alright, let's talk about some shoulders. For this item slot I've picked the Rune Cloth shoulders. They're nothing special, but they are decent for what they are. Just like the Dreamweave circlet, this is an item that can be crafted by tailors, and you will need 7 bolts of rune cloth, 2 iron web spider silk, 4 rugged leather and 1 rune thread. I do have a nice alternative though for all you warlocks and shadow priests out there, and that are the Fell Cloth shoulders. Now, they don't have any intellect and only a little bit of spirit, but they have 26 extra shadow damage, which is really nice for green shoulders. They are, however, more expensive in terms of mats, because these will set you back 7 bolts of rune cloth, 6 fell cloth, 4 demonic runes, 4 rugged leathers and 2 rune threads. Alright, moving on to the cloak. For the cloak I have a really nice item here that I would advise every single caster to get, and that is the Deep Woodlands Cloak. It's actually considered to be pre-raid best in slot, which is a really nice bonus considering it's pretty easy to get. In order to get this cloak, you only have to do one quest, which is called Wanted Vile Priestess Hex and her minions. And this is a quest where you need to kill a bunch of mobs in Jintha Alor, which is an area in the hinterlands. The mobs itself are level 50 plus elite, but if you do this at level 60 with at least 2 other guys, it will be a walk in the park, and it's definitely worth the trouble. And while you're getting this cloak, you can also get a pretty nice wand at the same time, but I will talk about that later on. Okay, I'm going to talk about the chest now. This time I've chosen the Dreamweave vest. Just like the Dreamweave circlet, it's good enough for what it is, and it has 18 spell damage. It's still pretty good for level 60. In order to get this item, you will have to get the following mats. 6 bolts of Mage's Weave, 6 Wild Vine, 2 Heart of the Wild, and 2 heavy silken threads. Now for the chest piece, I actually have 2 alternatives. I'm going to start off with the fell cloth robe. This robe is actually really good for a level 56 green item because of the massive 36 shadow damage. But just like the headpiece, it's more expensive compared to the Dreamweave item in terms of mats. For this item you will need 8 bolts of rune cloth, 8 fell cloth, 4 demonic runes, and 2 rune threads. My second alternative is for all you frost mages out there, and I'm talking about the Frostweave robe. I really like this item since the mats are really cheap, and it has a bit more spell damage compared to the Dreamweave vest. This item will set you back 5 bolts of rune cloth, 2 globes of water, and 1 rune thread. Alright, moving on to the bracers. And for this item slot I've chosen these really nice bracers, which are the tier 0.5 bracers for priests, mages, and warlocks. And I'm just going to use the mages one as an example, which is the sorcerer's bindings. As you can see, they are amazing since they have a fair bit of stamina, intellect, and spirit, and also a bit of spell damage, and they are considered to be pre-rate best in slot, which, just like the cloak, is a really nice bonus. So how do you obtain these bracers? Well, first you gotta get your hands on the normal dungeon bracers from either priests, warlocks, or mages. So if you're a warlock, you get the Dreadmist bracers. If you're a priest, you get the Devout bracers, and if you're a mage, you get the Magister's bindings. And you can basically buy these off the auction house for around 20 gold, so it's not too expensive. After that, you head to Mokvar if you're Horde, and Deliana if you're Alliance, and both will give you the quest called an Earnest Proposition. This quest will require you to get 15 Silithus venom samples, which you can just get by killing a bunch of scorpions and spiders in Silithus. After that, you return to the quest giver with an additional 20 gold, and there you go. You got your hands on some pretty sweet bracers. I know that in total this will set you back around 40 gold, but that's an absolute bargain considering they are pre-rate best in slot. Okay, time for the big one, the weapon. For this item slot I've chosen an absolutely amazing item, which is the Zulian Ceremonial Staff. It has a good amount of intellect and stamina, but more importantly it has 32 spell damage, which is pretty damn awesome. Now there are 2 ways you can get this staff. The first one is doing Zul'Gurub and hoping that this staff will drop, and then hoping you will actually win the roll. The second way is to just buy it off the auction house since it's BOE. I will note that this staff is pretty expensive and it usually goes for around 200 to 240 gold, which seems like a lot, but it's great value for money. I remember that I got my own mage to level 60 and I wanted this staff badly, and after maybe 2 evenings of farming the encrypted Twilight texts in Silithus, I had the money to buy this wonderful item, so it doesn't take a whole lot of time to get this item, and I think it is well worth your time. Also, it looks badass. Let's be real here. Alright, let's talk about the wand. As I stated a few minutes ago, you can get yourself a pretty nice wand when you're doing the quest to get your cloak. And it's about this one right here, the Nature's Breath. It's nothing too fancy, but this was pretty much the only decent wand I could find that you can get through questing, so it'll have to do. To get this wand, you'll have to do the quest, which is called Dark Vessels. Alright, moving on to the trinkets. And while I had a bunch of trinkets to choose from in my Burning Crusade edition, I unfortunately have no trinkets for the vanilla list. That's it, there's no trinkets you can get outside of dungeons, so you'll just have to make do without trinkets for some time. However, You can always use vote points to buy trinkets, and if you want to get them that way, then I advise you to go for the Eye of the Beast, available for 10 vote points, and the Briarwood Reed, available for 22 vote points. Okay, it's time to talk about some rings. My first choice is this one right here, the Chemist's Ring. Like many items on this list, my choice was really limited, so I had to go with a few greens that were fairly easy to obtain, and this is one of them. To get this item, you'll have to do 2 quests, which are called a Sample of Slime and a Batch of Ooze. The second ring is just a ring with a bunch of stamina because, well, that's all I had left in terms of what items I could choose from. You know, it still has a bunch of stamina, which will make your character a bit less squishy, and that's always a good thing. To get this ring, you'll have to do the quest Locked Away. Alright, moving on to the feet, we have these, the Abyssal Cloth Slippers of Sorcery. What I like about this item is that it has some really good stats for a level 55 green item, and on top of that, it's really cheap on the auction house. It's usually for sale for only 5 gold, which makes this item an absolute bargain. Okay, moving on. Just have 3 more items to go, and we're gonna talk about some pants right now. It was actually quite hard to come up with something decent that was easy to obtain and still had some spell damage, so I had to resort to these, which are the Red Mage Weave pants. Now I know that this is only a level 38 green, but in terms of spell damage, this was the best item I could pick, and the mats for these are really cheap. They are just 3 bolts of Mage Weave, 2 red dye, and 1 heavy silken thread. However, I do have an alternative for frost mages, because they can go for the Frost Weave pants. They have spirit instead of intellect, which is a bit unfortunate, but 26 frost damage is still pretty nice for a level 51 green item. The mats for these pants are also fairly cheap. You'll need 6 bolts of rune cloth, 1 essence of water, and 1 rune thread. Alright, onto the waists. For this item slot, I've chosen the Abyssal Cloth Sash of Sorcery. Just like the Abyssal Cloth Slippers, this item offers up some nice stats for a green item, but this one is more expensive compared to the slippers. Still, I managed to pick up mine for about 20 gold, which is still good value for money. And we've arrived at the last item, the gloves. And I've chosen the Earth Warders gloves. I know that the lack of stats, such as stamina or intellect, are a bit unfortunate, but still, 22 spell damage for green gloves is a lot, and it only requires you to do 1 simple killing quest. To get these, you will have to do the quest Winterfall Activity. Okay, now let's check out what this gear will give you in total. Keep in mind that for these statistics, I did not use the alternatives or the vote point items. I just stuck with the first or only item that I recommended. So, in total, this gear will give your character 69 stamina, 125 intellect, 53 spirit, and 152 spell damage. Which, if you ask me, is really nice for a kind of freshly dinged level 60. And you'll definitely do some decent damage in dungeons. And I think that you can actually get into raids such as Zul'Gurub or AQ20 with this kind of gear. I mean, usually when someone organizes a raid for AQ20 or Zul'Gurub, they will require you to have pre-raid best in slot, but there are some pickup groups that I've seen that do not require you to have that. You just need some decent gear and a fair amount of spell damage, which this gear will definitely give you. However, if you want to do Molten Core and Blackening Lair, then you'll absolutely need to have pre-raid best in slot at the very least. But you know what? I will make a video about the pre-raid best in slot list in the near future. But for now, this is what you get, and it's pretty damn nice if you ask me. So yeah, there you go. Alright folks, that's pretty much all I have to say, and all the items I have to recommend for you. Please keep in mind that these are my personal suggestions, and as always, if you have a better suggestion for an item, then feel free to link that in the comment section below. As always, my name is Hamsterwheel Gaming, and have a good one.